Okay, haven't made a video in a little while, so decided we'd be doing something a little different from our usual. Actually, I don't really know what my usual is, but we're ranking today Sword Art Online arcs. Sword Art Online is a very interesting show, very polarizing. I think it's generally seen as a pretty bad show, and I can't really disagree with that necessarily. I think probably most of these arcs are generally negative, have a negative review from me. But that said, it's still a show that has a lot of the aesthetics that I like. It's still a show that has a good bones, I think. Like a show that could have been good, maybe. But, interesting show. And I guess the last thing I want to say about it before we get into it is every time I talk to a guy about Sword Art Online, this could just be like the guys and girls that I know, but I thought it was interesting. Every time I talk to a guy about it, they're always like, yeah, Sword Art Online is the best show ever, awesome show, goated, whatever. And then every time I talk to a girl about Sword Art Online, they're like, wow, that is literally the worst show of all time. Which, we can get into some of the reasons why that is later. But, yeah, I thought that was interesting, and yeah, just a really interesting show, honestly. It really had like a grip on the culture for like a brief moment there. And it's still sort of one people look back on positively or negatively. So, okay. We're going to rank them, I guess, worst to best. Is that the best way to do it? No, I'm going to do best to worst. Because I think there's not a lot of good, so you might as well start with it, So, okay. So, in my opinion, and this is all my opinion, which means it's correct, no matter what. In my opinion, the best arc of Sword Art Online is Season 1, Part 1, or the first half of Season 1. I'm not including the Season 1 movies with this, even though you probably should. I'm doing those separately. Season 1, Part 1 is so... It's like the only really, really good part. I shouldn't say that, but it's like one of the best parts for sure. I think the romance of Season 1, Part 1 is carrying this a lot. I know maybe girls didn't find it as compelling as guys did, but definitely like really interesting. Asuna isn't just like sitting back and doing nothing either. She's like actually like a part of the story, like a major fighter, she's driving the story, in some cases. So the main issue I have with this, the plot actually feels like meaningful, there's actual stakes, right? It feels like there's like stuff going on, that matters, the only but like it's a lot of it's like not like crazy like high stakes all the time. They're still like trying to survive and like live and build relationships in this world as well, which is really cool. The only issue I have with I have two main issues with Season 1 Part 1. Number one is the time skips. I think the time skips are massive and it leaves a lot to be desired. Like, feels like we could have had a whole show of just this time period because it encapsulates 2 years, and we could have had like, not just like the crazy battles, but like a lot of the, factional things going on, they could have shown, for example, the battle with Laughing Coffin, the final battle or whatever it's called. Did they show that? I feel like they didn't. It doesn't really matter. But the battle that like really does impact the story, and affects Kirito later. Also, let's talk about Kirito right now. I think he is just a perfect blank slate character, right? He is brave, and he is, I guess, personable somewhat, but I wouldn't say he's exceptional at anything else. He's just a guy. He's just a guy you can project yourself onto and be like, oh well, this is how I would be. This is how I would be so cool in this story. You know, maybe that's not how every guy feels watching it or every person feels watching it, but that's kind of the vibe I got. Is he's very much a blank slate character that you can just map, that you can kind of just relate to and be like, he's kind of like an everyman, you know, except he's like the chosen one and super cool and whatever. He's not actually the chosen one, but you get what I'm saying. I'm sorry, I'm kind of rambling on. We have a lot left to go, so let's end at that. The time skips are crazy, and I don't like the harem. That's the other thing that I don't like about season 1, part 1, is there's not exactly a harem, but it's like sort of a soft harem that is present in a lot of anime. Okay, so number 2, we're going to go Mother's Rosario. This is the one with Asuna and, you know, the girl who... Well, we won't spoil... No spoilers in this video, but Mother's Rosario is... I think some people might call this, like, emotional baiting, I guess. Like, emotionally manipulative, maybe a better term. Some people might call it that. I think it's very touching. I think it's actually a great arc. Asuna gets some much-needed character development after some of the stuff we just witnessed from this show. And, yeah, it's just interesting. The arc doesn't overstay its welcome. It's actually a pretty short arc. And it's just nice. It's just, like, it is sad, but I think that's nice, you know? It is just a very meaningful arc, you know? Even if it's pretty self-contained, I would say. Number 3, I'm going to put the season 1 movies. These are movies to sort of fill in the best part of Sword Art Online, as well as the time skips, which it doesn't do a great job at because it's only a movie. It can only fill in so much of these time skips, you know. But it is something, I guess, and I like that it's trying to fill out this massive time period arc, you know, that doesn't really ever get filled out. It's trying, you know, and it does harken back to some of the better parts of the show. A lot of it's, like, kind of repetitive, right, from what we actually know already about the show, but that's okay, you know. I think it's still good. Just not, like, spectacular, you know. Number 4, I'm going to go with Alicization Part 1. This almost felt like a soft reboot of the series. It felt so different, you know. I know it's not. I know it's, like, just a continuation, just, like, a very different direction for the series to go in, which I think is good. Also, I should also say at this point that I've not read the manga, so I haven't read any future arcs. This is only going to be the arcs from the anime. But, yeah, so take that for what it is. I haven't read the manga. I've only really watched the show fully through once, so take that for what it is, you know. But yeah, I thought that Alicization Part 1 was genuinely refreshing. I think that as far as, like, stakes go, there are stakes, but everyone kind of stumbled backwards into them, you know, which if you've watched it, you kind of get what I'm talking about. The pacing is also an issue. By the way, Sword Art Online has huge pacing issues. It just feels like a lot of time nothing's happening, even if they're in a battle, even if they're, like, walking down a corridor. Like, there's a lot of time it feels like nothing's happening, and Alicization Part 1 is no different. It just feels like so sluggish a lot of times. And I don't even hate slow pacing. I love just the relaxed nature of, like, Free Ren and a lot of the Studio Ghibli movies, but this was, like, a lot of the show was kind of a hard watch, to be honest. It just felt, like, really sluggish. And Alicization Part 1 is no different. Definitely a nice change of pace. Definitely nice after some of the previous arcs before this, which we'll get into soon. But, yeah. Otherwise, I think it's just an average Sword Art Online arc. And then we got Alicization Part 2 at number 5 overall. The reason this is this high, maybe it should be higher for some of you, maybe it should be lower, but it kind of landed in the middle to me because it's really hard to write an ending to a show. And I know they're going to come out with another movie later. I know the show's not technically officially over, but as far as, like, everyone's concerned, this was kind of the end of the show, you know, and it's really hard to write an ending. I'll give credit to the manga author or whoever did it, but I think that this was a good ending. Like, it was a good ending. It was kind of sad, kind of hard, but it was just the ending I think we needed, you know? And other than that, the arc is probably even slower than Alicization Part 1. I know I could probably group these guys into one arc, but this is like pretty big, and it was divided into 2 seasons-ish, kind of. I know it was divided almost into 3, kind of into 1, kind of not at all. It doesn't even matter. But, yeah. I thought a lot of the battles were really boring. I thought, like, I shouldn't say boring, just, like, kind of padded out a little bit, you know? Um, there are stakes, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't. It's obviously just not the same at this point in the show as the first half season. You know, it's just not. And that's okay, but it is what it is. Um, a lot of the scenes, a lot of the characters, interactions, everything was just kind of hit or miss. Not bad, but just like not like blow your mind good either. Um, yeah, Alicization Part 2 kind of feels like the longest arc, even though it's by technicality like one of the shortest. Yeah, I don't know. It is just is what it is. Um, Number 6, we have Ordinal Scale. Ordinal Scale is a movie that's set kind of in the middle of the series, and in my opinion, this is just all I can think about when I see this movie is like how it must look to outsiders, like just regular Tokyo citizens, and I'm sure all they see is a bunch of dumb kids running around Tokyo yelling about magical idols and monsters, you know? I don't think the plot was terrible, you know, with like the whole idol and, you know, the villain and how they're connected and what's going on there. I don't think that's terrible. I think it's fine. But like, was this really like the hard hitting movie like you always wanted and needed? I don't know if it was, you know? It just was a movie that existed, you know? And that's fine. I don't think if you like Sword Art Online, you'll probably like this movie, but I thought it was whatever. It was just a movie that existed, you know? Okay. Number 7, we got Season 1, Part 2, which is the arc known as Fairy Dance. And Asuna, oh my gosh. So if you've seen Fairy Dance, you already know what I'm going to say. But, like, Asuna just goes from such a cool heroine that, like, just really compliments and assists and even leads Kirito at times, to a damsel in distress for no reason. It's so, like, lame. It's so cliche. It's so stupid. The whole, like, rest of the arc is kind of whatever. Like, it's fine. You know, he's in Alfheim Online. He's learning to fly. He's doing all this stuff. He's hanging out with his sister, who doesn't know his sister, which is another thing. Also, the villain for this one, like, we don't even need... If you've watched this, you already know. But, like, I guess points for becoming one of the most hated anime characters of all time. You know, that's, like, takes... It's impressive to be able to write that. But also, he just literally just molests the main heroine on screen. That's kind of all it is. And it's just whatever. Like, ugh. This was a hard watch. This was a hard watch, especially after the arc we just had. This was the beginning of the end for the show, you know? Like, this was not good. This was a hard watch. Also, the stuff with his sister. Again, if you've watched the show, you already know what I'm talking about, but also a very hard watch. Also, it's just like, what am I watching? Yeah. Not sister. Is she his cousin? I don't even know, man. Like, it doesn't matter. You already know if you've watched the show, but it's hard to watch for me, you know? Because he just doesn't care, you know? He likes Asuna, and that's great, but, like, oh my gosh. Anyway, I wanted to like the season so bad. I genuinely wanted to like the season so bad, and it's just not good. This arc is not good. Okay. Number 8, we're getting to the very bad stuff right now. We got Season 2, Gun Gale Online. See, there's a huge gap in this show between the actual like scene to scene writing, which I think was fine. Like if you've seen Gun Gale Online, it's definitely watchable. Like you're not gonna like be like miserable watching every individual scene. The issue is sort of with the story as a whole, right? It's completely different from Sword Art Online, like the fantasy like vibe that we've come to love from the show. It's instead a gun game, but Kirito is fighting with a lightsaber for some reason, and I understand that he's like a swordsman, right? And so he transferred all of his data there, and so that's what he's good at, and that makes like logical sense. But like, did we really want to see like Kirito without Asuna fighting like with a lightsaber in a gun game? Like, is that what you're here for? If you like Sword Art Online, like I don't know, man. It's just maybe it's not my cup of tea, but that's just not like the vibe I'm here for, you know. Again, the scene to scene is fine, you know, but like because the vibe, which wasn't what I'm there for, I actually didn't end up watching like the spin-off show about Gun Gale Online because like it doesn't appeal to me in the same way. That's fine, you know. Also, why is Kirito gender bent? I don't understand that. I get that it's kind of funny, but it's so out of nowhere, you know? He just is for some reason. Again, where is Asuna? And then maybe most of all, why are the stakes just so much lower than season 1, you know? Like, at least Asuna was on the line in season 1. At least, like, all of their lives were on the line in season 1. Like, what was this? What was this arc, you know? Like, what actually mattered? I understand that he's, like, just basically an agent at this point. He's, like, kind of doing side quests after the whole horror of season 1. But it just felt so dramatically less important and less interesting than the first season. And maybe I'm alone in that. I haven't, like, looked into a lot of the feedback per arc about this show, so maybe I'm totally off base here, but I don't know. Again, the scene writing isn't bad, but just the big picture stuff, everything else I'm talking about, just isn't there at all, you know? And that's disappointing. So that's why it's bad to me. Okay, number 9. I hope I didn't forget any, but this is my last one, is Caliber. And I don't even know if it's that close. Like, the big picture stuff I talked about in Gun Gale Online, also terrible. The scene writing, like in like Fairy Dance, for example, is also really bad. Like, this is so in an anime with so many boring and unwatchable like sections and episodes and parts. This was the most boring, the most unwatchable arc, I think, by far. Like, it's so boring. I'm almost like, why does this exist, you know? I understand that there's some plot significance to it. Like, the big picture stuff, like, is there, I guess, but is it? Like, I can't even remember what happened in this arc. Like, and look, I said that it was probably to Mother Rosario's benefit that it didn't overstay its welcome, but I'm pretty sure Caliber is equally as long, and it just feels, maybe a little shorter, I don't know, and it just feels so useless. Like, I feel like I wasted my time watching this, you know? I feel like I could have, like, done anything else with my life and gotten more than watched Caliber arc. I don't know. Maybe I'm off base. If you have feedback, please leave it. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say. Those are my Sword Art Online rankings. Overall, the show leaves something to be desired. But if my bros are ever talking to me like this show is the GOAT, of course I would be hyping them up because I do love SIO, like, at its core, like what it could be, you know. I love the show that is struggling, the good show that's struggling to get out of this show, you know? And that's all I'll say about that. Anyway, I rambled on long enough. Hope you enjoyed. Talk to you later. Peace.